What's up, everybody? Welcome into Shout, a Buffalo football podcast, minicamp edition. Ryan, it's the last part of the offseason program before we get a couple weeks off. And before you know it, training camp is going to be here. It was a jam-packed day at One Bills Drive today. A ton to get into on this episode of Shout. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. And as you said, a lot to get into, a lot of great observations given out to our Shout Insiders. So can't wait to share them out with the rest of the Bills Mafia.
It was an up and down day for Josh Allen out there. We'll get into that. But if you want no problems, a weekend getaway like no other, head to Jamestown, New York, the site of the National Comedy Center. The perfect day trip or weekend trip for the entire family. One of the most interactive museums in the country. This is a museum experience like no other, featuring comedy's biggest hits and greatest legends. Go out there and experience a day filled with laughter, and then let us know all about it, Ryan. We can't wait to get out to the Comedy Center.
Yeah, pumped to get out there, Matt. The best of the best in the comedy world are there doing shows, memorabilia, you name it. Can't wait to head out that way.
All right, so let's start with Josh Allen. Obviously, we could probably start with James Cook, but let's put that on the back burner for just a moment, because I think if from an observational perspective, you have Josh Allen, who just had this massive wedding, has kind of been a whirlwind couple of weeks for him. He comes back into the mix this week, and we got to see him out on the practice field, and there was a lot of good and some bad, a lot to kind of get into here. You know, one of the big takeaways off the top is 3 interceptions for Josh. And that is, I can't remember how many practices over the years in this setting that we've talked about this, where he's had 3 interceptions. So I think it's noteworthy off the jump. But again, like talking to him after practice, it's all about trying things in these environments to figure out what works offensively, not only for himself as a thrower, but in terms of like the connections with all of his different pass catchers. I mean, you want a guy in this setting taking chances, right? And some of these throws, you know, he airmailed one that was intercepted by safety Derek Forrest. Joe Andreessen picked him off. We'll talk plenty about him in a little bit in 7-on-7. And then Christian Benford, just really, really tight coverage. And that's an elite cornerback that if you make even the slightest of mistakes, he's going to make you pay for it. Now, at the same time, he had a couple of just unbelievable throws today. As you don't go to a Bills practice and not see a bunch of unbelievable throws from Josh Allen. One of them was to Josh Palmer, Ryan, who, to me, this was the first day this spring where we saw on display what I think Brandon Beane envisioned when he gave Josh Palmer that big contract. I mean, 3 years, $36 million. That is the biggest wide receiver contract that he's handed out since Stephon Diggs. And really, in the entirety of this build, I mean, I have to go back and look at John Brown and Cole Beasley. I don't think either of them touched those numbers. This is a significant investment. And what we saw on display today, no pads. So, you know, let's keep all the hyperbole in check here. Separation is the name of the game with Josh Palmer's abilities. And he was able to get free, show himself open to Josh Allen, and Allen made a 1 or 2 really good throws to him. But I mean, it felt like Palmer was open a lot today.
Which is exactly what you want to hear, as you mentioned. Brandon Beane was very confident in that signing, saying that he's going to be a player that we're all talking about at the end of the 2025 season. So Palmer coming in with or without pads, obviously, it's still a good thing that he's getting open, making plays. You're going to want to see that carry over to training camp when it's the pads are on and eventually, and it's a little bit more competitive in that respect. But definitely a good start there. As for Josh Allen and the 3 interceptions up and down day, like you said, this is the time to experiment, try some new things out, try to work on developing your chemistry with some of these new players like Palmer, or continuing to build on your chemistry with players like Keon Coleman, some of these rookies that they brought in at tight end position. So there's going to be times where he's going to be seeing how he can build his relationship up with them. As for the defensive players, great to hear Andreessen had a great day, which we'll talk more about here in a minute. Benford being your cornerback number 1, those are the types of plays that you expect. And every now and then you will airmail a ball as well. So, right place, right time, but at least Forrest made a play on it and the correct play on it.
Palmer battling with whenever he's locked on to Christian Benford. Training camp, those are going to be some fun matchups to watch. I think they're really going to challenge each other quite a bit. On the play where Palmer made the really nice catch, the guy that was closest to him in coverage was Jordan Hancock, which I think, like, you think first and foremost, oh, the rookie gets beat. But, like, I'm more so interested in the rookie getting an opportunity to face a Josh Palmer early in minicamp, right? Like, those are like the kind of reps that are going to be super valuable. You have Taron Johnson, who's in a red jersey, coming back from offseason shoulder injury, shoulder surgery. There were a ton of guys that weren't practicing today. I would imagine a good chunk of them are just like, hey, something's a little bit off, like, let's not chance it, type of thing. Joey Bosa was working off to the side today. I thought he looked pretty good out there as well. So again, probably just trying to, keep guys healthy all the way to training camp. But it gives an opportunity to a guy like Jordan Hancock with, two safeties not practicing today, Taron Johnson out there, but in a limited capacity, to just get a little bit more run. And these are really, really important reps for him.
Yeah, important reps for him, important reps for Derek Forrest, opportunities to make plays, show what you can do when you have other players out or limited. So, kudos to them both in terms of Forrest with the interception, but Hancock, yeah, he was out of place or the closest, I guess, is the best way of putting it on that play. But it's going to be a learning experience for him. He's going to go back and watch the film. What did I do wrong? What can I do better? And that's going to make him better this year and in the future.
If you're watching on YouTube this lovely June afternoon, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel as well. All right. Big day today in the running back room. James Cook, not a part of any of the voluntary portion of the offseason program. He indeed shows up today. And it's funny, I got my notification on my phone when you put up that story from Adam Schefter over the weekend. I was surprised that Schefter went that hard on all of the little, like, he's disconnected himself from the organization. I think it's going to be a long time before we see James Cook in Buffalo, mentioning that he sold his house even, like, maybe a conversation with his agent, whatever the case may be. But I always thought, if you were asking me what I'd bet going into minicamp, I would have put any amount of money that James Cook was going to show up for it, because what he said first thing out of his mouth today, I like my money. And he would have had to, sacrifice almost a little bit over $100,000 in fines for not being there. Will he or won't he show up to training camp, Ryan? If he doesn't show up, the Bills can then choose to not give him credit for an accrued season, which would delay his ability to go into free agency. Like, this is a massive season for him. I think that, unfortunately, on the player side, on the end of a rookie deal, the team ends up really holding a lot of the cards in these situations. And from a personal standpoint, like, everybody that I've ever talked to about James Cook in that building, I mean, he's loved from coaches, trainers, players, all of them alike talk about, like, the leadership qualities. He's not very, like, vocal, but in terms of, like, showing up, being available for his teammates, being accountable in big games, all those little things, he leads by example. I mean, Ray Davis talked about it all last season, how much he looked up to him as a kind of like a semi-vet in the room. So I'm not surprised to see him show up. And then when he does show up, he participates in practice, because we've seen it around the league. Some guys can, like, show up and kind of hold in. James Cook decided not to do that.
Yeah, and I really respect the not doing the hold in, because he could have done that. Show up, don't get your fine, $104,000 over these next few days. You're there, but you're not participating. And he said, no, I'm going to be there. I'm going to participate. I'm a leader on this team. He knows the ultimate goal is winning the Super Bowl. While he does want to get that big payday, participating and working on reps for him and chemistry for him, showing what he can do, building off of his year last season. It's all very important to him. So that's definitely a good thing. And like you mentioned, training camp, he had no options for training camp. He was going to have to show up. As Joel Corey had pointed out on social media, he that would have just delayed the whole free agent process. And that's the last thing that he wants. So he had a little bit of, I wouldn't even call it leverage. He could have sat out this week, but why give up $100,000 instead of just showing up to a mandatory mini camp, doing your part, which is exactly what he's going to do.
Heavily involved today. I mean, in team drills, like you wouldn't have been able to tell this was his first practice. Had a couple of receptions. I thought he was really looking. The burst was there. He had a couple of runs in the run game, one in particular that he kind of broke to the outside. Christian Benford had to kind of chase him down. Would probably have been a 15 to 20-yard run in a game situation. And again, they're not on pads. You're not really blocking it up the same way. But in terms of like what you'd want to see boxes checked from James Cook on day one, he checked all the boxes for sure. A lot of people usually asking about Maxwell Haristen. And again, Todd is asking about him. Not a lot to report on him today. Not a lot of situations. He was out there. He was battling. Not a lot of balls thrown his way that sometimes in a cornerback situation, that's a good thing, right? Not a lot of plays needing to be made on the ball. So not a lot to take in from that perspective, but he was staying after practice for a while. Like some of the state title teams were in attendance to watch practice today. So the girls flag football team from Webster was there and a couple other teams as well. And after practice, a bunch of players went and, signed autographs, took pictures, all that kind of thing. I mean, the cornerbacks, Christian Benford, Dane Jackson, Jamarcus Ingram, and Maxwell Harrison, they were walking through mental reps for a good chunk after practice. So I think from that perspective, that's good to see. Like that's something that like doing a little bit extra, right? Like guys that are willing to kind of, mandatory minicamp, like it's kind of a funny vibe because you want to get your work done, but I almost feel like it's like the last week of school, right? Guys like are decelerating before they get to the long break. It feels like Maxwell Harrison's completely locked into this thing, trying to kind of soak up as much knowledge as he can before we get to the break.
Yeah, I love that analogy as an educator myself. That last week of school, some of us are just ready to pop on that movie and let the kids sign yearbooks. Others, though, are still locked in, and it might depend on your perspective, how many years in you are, and just the work ethic in general. But I think a lot of these guys are definitely locked in. But this is how it feels. The Bills are just this week, and then it's pretty much turn the page until training camp. So great analogy there.
Couple questions about Tre'Davious White and Maxwell Harrison. Remember, there are limitations on what we can report during these practice settings. So I can't tell you first team, second team. We will be able to do that on some of the days during training camp because they're open to the public. But when there's a closed practice, we can't really get into, this player played here, this player played there. Now, you can, when we go through some of the plays from practice, you can kind of read between the lines and see where people were lined up. But we can't come out and just say, Trey White was playing with Christian Benford like that. And by the way, I will say this too, guys are cycling through. Like nobody is like outside of like your bona fide starters, like Christian Benford. I don't even know if I could throw another name out there, like Matt Milano, Taylor Rapp. Like those are like the cemented guys that you would expect to be at their spots all the time. Where there's position battles on both sides of the ball, they're going to be taking a lot of looks at a lot of different things. And, as you'll hear when we talk about some of these matchups today, guys are getting the opportunity to leave an impression. And I want to talk about Joe Andreessen next, and I want to get to him because we've talked about on this podcast. I've talked about this on radio shows and other podcasts. The Bills have been like lying dormant at linebacker this offseason. They're literally running it back exactly like they did a season ago. Today was a day that kind of shows you why they're comfortable doing that because Joe Andreessen was spectacular. And it's a practice setting, no pads, all the caveats usual. But like Ryan, he continues to stand out as a guy that makes plays when he's on a football field. And you have to take something away from that. Like we don't want to overreact to it, but he's comfortable. He makes plays in the run game. He makes plays in the passing game. The interception in 7-on-7, right place, right time, jumps in front of a pass, picks it up. The pass breakup on a Josh Allen to Dawson Knox, deep ball down the left sideline. Like think through this. The middle linebacker having all the different responsibilities at different levels. And I don't know if they were in zone or man, whatever the case may be. He said afterwards it was a flood concept that they were defending against, whatever the case may be. He basically admitted, listen, it's not really the expectation of the Mike linebacker to make a play at that part of the field, but at the same time, in this room, you want your Mike linebacker to be able to make that play. And so he drifts to the play, notices that the ball is going deep, adjusts, runs, and breaks the pass up. He was critical of himself saying, I got to piss. What? I went to the bathroom before we started this tab.
Oh, man.
I gotta pick that off because picks make you money in this league. So he's a little bit upset with himself. Big day for Joe Andreessen. And I think like that backup role to Terrell Bernard, it's locked down. Like I think he is the guy in that spot.
I like that.
I think Dorian Williams is the backup to Matt Milano. And today they bring in Shaq Thompson, which we could talk a little bit about here. To me, I think that's more of a down the road kind of move, like an AJ Klein in waiting, more so than it's going to, unseat any of the top four that I just mentioned.
Yeah, and as we've mentioned multiple times, no pads. I think no pads, though, favors the offense more than the defense. Both sides are a little bit more explosive because you're not in pads that slow you down a little bit. But Andreessen showing off his instincts twice today. You said right place, right time, but he still made the play. And then the pass breakup. That's the athleticism. That's the instincts you want to see in your second year. A guy that went from rookie minicamp invite to a 53-man roster spot. That was the feel-good story last year, but now it's what can you do for me this year? How have you shown your growth? It was a great story last year, but that doesn't mean anything in year two. And he's coming in here and making plays. And as you mentioned, maybe almost locking down a depth spot on this team. They haven't made many moves. They add Shaq Thompson today. Thompson, in my opinion, it's a Deion Jones signing from 1 year ago. A veteran, a little bit long in the tooth. He's coming off of back-to-back years with serious injuries where he's missed a lot of time, 6 games played over that stretch. But he could be the veteran that's on the practice squad. He could push a Balen Spector type of player off of this roster if he can put together a strong summer. That pipeline from Buffalo or Carolina to Buffalo, it's running low because Sean McDermott, Brandon Beane, they've been here respectively since 2017 and 2018. There's very few players left over from that time. He's one of them, a first-round pick from 2015. Expectations are low because I think the Bills are sold on guys like Andreessen and Ulofoshio stepping up in year two. Still maybe a spot for him, but Andreessen coming in, making plays, bodes well for his role this year and potential playing time.
The National Comedy Center was named the best new museum in the country by USA Today, one of Time Magazine's world's greatest places, and one of the 25 best family weekend getaways by U.S. News and World Report. Last fall, it was voted by Western New Yorkers as the #1 best museum in the Buffalo News' Best of 716 awards. Get out to the National Comedy Center today, one of the nation's top museums and national archives dedicated to the art of comedy. All right, Ryan, where do you want to go next?
Ooh, where to go next? Well, we've already touched upon the big plays. You know what? Let's talk a little bit about Keon Coleman. He had a pretty big play today.
Yeah, listen, guys are battling out there, right? Like there's certain matchups throughout the day, whether it be an incomplete pass or maybe a connection that, we could sit here and do a whole segment on. And I avoid that sometimes, but I thought that this one particular play from Keon Coleman was worth mentioning because, he was battling Christian Benford at the early part of a route, probably like I don't know, maybe 15 yards down the field, like an out route, like to be able to get separation in that spot, whether you're going against zone or man, I don't think really matters. If you're going against zone, you got to find the open spot to give Josh Allen a place to throw the ball. And if you're going against man, you got to shake that defender. And it's something that people have been ultra critical of Keon Coleman for. And I think like we've seen it a little bit throughout the spring, but today was a day where that's a big time play. Like if the Bills are running 2-minute offense and Keon gets into that spot, which he does, gets free on kind of like the out comeback route, makes a great catch and getting both feet in bounds. Like that is a big time drive sustaining play, depending on when it happens in the course of a drive. And all of those little plays from the spring and then in training camp, like Josh Allen puts those all in the back of his memory bank, right? Because like when they get into the games, I put a story out earlier this week on Keon Coleman about, the fact that they're going to throw together over the course of the 6 weeks between minicamp and training camp, try to build that kind of rapport even more. Those moments in practice are just as important as anything they do away from the field, because those are the kinds of things that build trust quarterback to receiver.
Yeah, and that's huge because last year there were some great flashes from Keon Coleman, especially pre-injury, and you saw a little bit of a rapport being built. Then you have the injury, misses a lot of time, wasn't quite the same after that. So entering year 2, before training camp comes, throwing with him, that's going to certainly help with building up that chemistry a little bit, heading into maybe training camp, knowing that they had worked together. Maybe you're going to see that first and foremost in some of those early days, but it's up to Coleman to create the separation, or when he doesn't, to make a play on those 50-50 balls. Something that you thought he would be very good at, even as a rookie, where he wasn't necessarily spectacular in that area. This is all about building on your days. He had another nice play today, creating some separation, some room, getting open in the right spot. And if he can do that consistently this summer, it's going to lead to more opportunities for him in this offense in the regular season.
Mark Bouchard, super chat while he's at work. That's dedication. Boom, boom. Okay, that's what we like to see from our insiders. Speaking of which, if you want to know everything that goes down at practice before we ever get on a podcast, you want to become an insider. 716-528-6727. Send that a text. Sign up, 2-week free trial, $3.99 a month after that. Do you think Andreessen could be Milanos' predecessor? Well, it seems like, I'm never say never. Like, I think like they can definitely cross-train guys and figure out a way to get them into a spot to be successful as a weak side backer, as a guy in the middle. I think the fact that he's in his second season and has downloaded the middle linebacker spot as well as he has, the options are limitless with what they can do with him. But I think Dorian Williams' skill set and, overall athleticism profile probably projects a little bit better in that spot. And listen, we're through a couple seasons here. Benford gets hurt every season, or Bernard gets hurt every season. Milano gets hurt every season. And they're varying degrees of injury, but like having those kinds of really strong backups, whether it be, Andreessen at the middle linebacker spot or Dorian at the weak side. And by the way, we talked about this on the show last week. I think Dorian's got to play, even if Milano's starting, they got to find a way to get him on the field. It's a good problem to have a lot of talent at the position.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Andreessen could end up being the predecessor. The build favors Dorian Williams, but the Bills aren't afraid to put undersized players in spots across the defense, and as long as they're making plays and they're going sideline to sideline, the instincts are there. So never say never, but I agree with your assessment of Dorian Williams probably being more likely to be the predecessor.
So a couple years ago, I had to install a lock on the sliding door, and for years, I've not had to use it because you weren't coming down here while I was doing my show. But this is now 2 times in like 2 weeks that you're making a sneak guest appearance. What's going on here? What did you want to add to the program today? If you're you have a question?
Oh, okay.
No, you.
I asked you a question.
And I answer.
Okay. Well, how about Ryan asks you a question this time?
Okay.
All right, Ryan.
Oh, okay. All right. Which wide receiver do you think will lead the Bills in receiving yards this year? Khalil Shakir, Josh Palmer, Keon Coleman.
Or Keon Coleman.
The last one.
The last one?
Ooh.
Keon Coleman? All right. I like that prediction. Josh Palmer's making a lot of money, though. So you're still going with Coleman? How come? He's number 0. Do you like that number?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, hit the road. It's nice. It's been nice talking to you. I got to do some work.
No.
See ya. See you on the other side. All right. All right. Anyway, we're off the rails here. We're off the rails.
That's all right.
So, you know what? Where were we before that little guest appearance?
We were talking about the linebacker position.
I want to move. Oh, I want to talk about the safeties quick, and then I want to talk about a receiver that had a rough day. Okay. Safety, Derek Forrest. We've been talking about him since the Bills signed him as like this Jordan Poyer-esque addition. Now, that's a dangerous comp to have because Jordan Poyer is going to go down as one of the great Bills, right, at safety. He's, all pro, huge part of their success over the last 6-7 years. Really great player. But when he came to Buffalo, he had basically no role in Cleveland outside of special teams. And so Derek Forrest is similar, although I think he's played a little bit more in Washington than Poyer did in Cleveland. He feels so natural and comfortable, right? Like even from the jump, you'd think that it'd be a download period for getting in all the defensive specifics and everything like that. He gets thrown out there in practice today, was in on a bunch of plays, didn't have a pass breakup outside of the interception, but like makes the play when the play comes to him. There weren't plays being made on him. I think that's like a big day for a guy that I like. Cole Bishop. I'm projecting Cole Bishop to win that second job opposite Taylor Rapp, but we're already in minicamp. We're not even in training camp yet, and Cole Bishop is unavailable. That's part of his story now. Like if you go back to his rookie season, Sean was asked about playing rookies today, and he was actually pretty fired up in his response. Like he's kind of getting sick of hearing that he doesn't play rookies. He said, I don't play rookies that don't belong out there, is basically what he said today. And at that stage, because he missed so much time, Cole Bishop did not belong on the field. And so now you look at this season, if Bishop misses any chunk of camp and we take the last half of the season or quarter of the season and analyze that versus what Forrest could potentially do if he's available all summer, is it out of the realm of possibility that he beats Bishop out for that job opposite Rapp? I mean, I'm at least giving him a chance, knowing what we know about him, and the fact that I'm high on what I've heard about him and what I've read about him.
I think if Bishop misses significant time this summer, it opens the door for someone to win that number 2 job. Now, we saw a few years ago at the linebacker position where everyone seemed injured. We didn't know who was going to be starting opposite Matt Milano. Ended up being Terrell Bernard. And maybe the Bills like Bishop enough where even if he's banged up this summer, come week 1, if he's available, he's their guy. That could be the way that they go for sure. But availability is key in this defense, this offense, this team in general. And if you're available and you're making plays and you look the part, there's an opportunity for you. So, yeah, Bishop needs to, whatever this injury is that he's dealing with, it might just be, hey, let's hold you off until this summer when training camp begins. It's not worth throwing you out there if you're a little banged up right now for these 3-day mandatory mini camp. So, we don't want to speculate and sit here and say that it's something significant, but if it lingers into into training camp, yes, that does open the door.
I don't want to start any hype trains because, the receiver, bottom of the depth chart receiver hype trains in spring and summer amongst Bills Mafia. I mean, there's some legendary ones, right? I like the Steven Gosnell kid. Like he's somebody that, he's just energetic. He's got good hands from what I could see through the whatever amount of weeks that we've been watching practice. He made a nice grab today, but I want to give credit on the other side to Corey Couch. The diagnosis pre-snap, post-snap, and then firing off on the ball. I mean, I believe it was Mike White. Maybe it might have been Shane Buechele throwing the ball. So maybe gives you a little bit extra time to get there. But man, did he fire downhill and just completely blow up the play. So I want to shout out Couch. I mean, this is a guy that we loved in camp and preseason last year, who I think is going to, make some plays this summer as well. That's another guy to, it's a really, I wouldn't have said this like a month ago, but it feels like there's a lot of talent in the safety room. But how that shakes out once we get to the 53-man roster cut down is going to be interesting.
Yeah, and Couch has that relationship with Jamil Adai from their time at Miami. So when he came in last year as a UDFA, you kind of said, okay, maybe this is a player that Adai thought could really play in this league, given some development, given some time, and didn't play much last year, obviously, but the Bills liked him enough to stick him around on the practice squad. And now year 2, come in, make plays like this. It's a tough spot. It's a tough position for him, any player to make this roster right now with the depth and the talent that they have. But we've seen players stick around on the practice squad for 2 years, and then in year 2 maybe get an opportunity when injuries arise or pop up, and they come in and make plays. So Couch is a player to watch. It's someone that Adai has confidence in. The Bills liked him last year. He flashed at times over the summer 1 year ago as a rookie. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do in year 2.
Did I say predecessor or did you say predecessor?
We all did. It was in the question, so we were saying it instead of heir apparent or successor, and
it was in what question?
The
Marks
linebacker position. Yeah.
Leave Mark alone, dude. Like, come on. Like,
we used it too, so whatever.
We used it too. Whatever. All right. Let's talk about Tyrell Shavers for a minute, because he is such an interesting player, because there is so much potential locked in the package, right? Like, super athletic dude, long, great foot speed, great footwork, great quickness. He gets open. He puts cornerbacks, safeties in a bind. The hands just were a problem today. Like a real bad drop. He was really frustrated with himself when you saw him come back to the huddle, really upset. And then Shavers down the left sideline gets a little bit of separation working against Christian Benford. That is a massive deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're going one-on-one with Christian Benford down the sideline and you provide a window to your quarterback, that's huge. Gets his hands on the ball. I think Benford probably ripped it out, but like, you need your wide receiver, if you're going to build some confidence in him, to make that play on the sideline. And it's just too often, for whatever amount of like momentum builds for Shavers, there seems to be one of these kinds of days that kind of peels it back a little bit. I don't feel like there's many people that work as hard as him. Like, the guy is all ball all the time. I've talked to him a couple of times. Like, he doesn't do much else. It's just that there's just a missing piece there. And, you know, it's a shame, because I think he could take a really significant run at a roster spot. I just wonder if days like this don't sit in the back of an evaluator's head, like Joe Brady, Sean McDermott, when they're making final decisions. And somebody asked, would he be plucked off the practice squad? Maybe. He's kind of hung on the Bills practice squad, and I think that's kind of part of the reason. That's kind of in his, even in preseason games, if you go back over the years and watch them, at times drops have been an issue.
I was leading the Shavers hype train last year. I was a big fan of how he played over the summer and the spring, thought there was a chance for him to make that roster. He needs to have almost a flawless summer, though. We've looked at the depth chart in this room. We've talked about Shakir and Palmer, Keon Coleman up at the very top. They bring in Elijah Moore. They only carry or usually have about 5 receivers on this roster. And as you're looking at this team, it's like, man, it's already an uphill battle for a player like Shavers to come in, and even a Caden Prather, who they used their last pick on. These guys almost have to be flawless to claim one of those final spots, or to convince the Bills to carry 6 wide receivers this season. And days like this, you don't want to overblow it, but those are days that he's going to beat himself up, like you mentioned, because I got separation against the best cornerback on this team, but I didn't finish the play. The hands didn't report for mandatory minicamp on the first day. It's important that they show up here on these next 2.
I will say, after a couple of bad plays, Shavers did, redeem himself a little bit. Took a crosser over the middle, and just like his speed, I mean, it takes you right back to that 70-yard touchdown screen that he had last season. I mean, he's got a special combination of athleticism and speed and quickness. It's just, you wonder if he could kind of put it all together. Christopher's in the comments asking for punter gossip. There is 0 punter nuggets to pass along. We've not seen the punters at all. Like, I wonder if they're doing stuff completely away from any of the team drills. Tyler Bass made like a 55-yard field goal when they ran some hurry up. So there's your special teams nugget of the day, but that's all you're getting. You know who was about perfect today, Ryan? On, I think, 3 targets, maybe 4. Caden Prather was really good today. Hands, super great. There was one route where I was watching him work one-on-one against Dane Jackson, and he just absolutely won every phase of the play, from his ability to get open like on a very short amount of time, and then provide a window to, I believe it was Trubisky, that hit him on the quick slant play. Huge play, huge catch, great hands all the way through it. He made a couple plays throughout practice. He's a guy that, like, you like, again, the athletic profile to a degree, but he's got really sure hands. That stuck out to me throughout I'll be interested to see if it carries on into the summer.
A lot of Bills fans are clamoring for an earlier pick at the position in this draft class, which completely understand. The Bills waited until the very end, but we talked about him early on here with the Bills and making some plays. We talked about him today making plays. This is what he needs, and to continue to build upon this. So definitely a positive, early returns for Caden Prather.
2 quick defensive line notes, and then we're out of here. Not a lot to report on the lines. No Connor McGovern today, so we saw a lot of Cedric Van Pran Granger. So that I thought that was, these are really good opportunities for him. I mean, right. Connor McGovern is going to have that thing locked down once we get to camp. I don't know what the injury is. That we don't know most of the injuries. Well, I'll try to find out as many as I can tomorrow. So make sure you check out that episode. But it's tough to what do you say about when defensive linemen are pulling up, plays are getting blown dead before guys even get close to the quarterback? It's hard to really take away anything from that. But TJ Sanders dropped into coverage at one point, almost picked off Mike White, just dropped it. So a nice pass break up there defensively for him. And I thought, again, Javon Solomon is flashing some really nice juice off the line, his get off, his speed, his ability to kind of be around the quarterback, even though he's not really allowed to be back there. I've been impressed with him so far. He had another nice day.
His pressure rate last season, based on the number of pass rush snaps that he had, it jumped off the page. But it was such a small sample size. You didn't know what to do with it. The times that he was in the game, a lot of the time it was, you don't want to say meaningless points in a game, but games were out of hand, or it was, the final game of the season where they weren't playing for much. But he popped last year, and this is a huge opportunity for him. We all know that Joey Bosa has not been able to stay healthy the last few seasons. We know what AJ Epinez's ceiling is. We know we know that Hoyt is suspended the first 6 weeks of the season. If Javon Solomon continues to flash and pop and make plays, he's going to be a big part of that rotation early on in the year. And he could be that player on defense that maybe not enough people are going to be talking about now versus the end of the season where this guy came out of nowhere and really, cemented himself as an important piece to this defensive line.
Another important note from McDermott, Deion Walker really starting to ramp things up a little bit. They hope that he takes another step before training camp. That's huge because when they drafted him, I mean, the way Bean was talking about it, I got the sense that if he's available for teamwork in training camp, that'll be a real victory. They're ramping him up here. So that's a really good sign. I saw a couple reps during when they were working on the pads before, during individual work, and him and TJ Sanders, I mean, they were really just firing off into the pads. I'm very excited to see what that looks like once the pads do come on. And I say pads, I mean the tackling dummies. You know what I'm talking about.
Right. I'm really excited about Deion Walker. A lot of draft analysts, rightfully so, criticized the fact that he plays too high or was playing too high. One, I think the back injury factored into that last year. And two, you can teach technique. You can work on that. You can't teach the explosiveness, the get off that he has for his size. So if you can clean up the technique a little bit, he's going to be a potentially scary player. I hate to use the word potential because we've seen a lot of players with a ton of potential just never pan out in this league, a league-wide thing, not just a Bills thing. But the potential is off the charts with this player based on just the size and raw athleticism.
I don't want to blow up the Ryan Nielsen edition too much before we really get into it. But doesn't it just totally remind you of what the Bills did on their offense with Aaron Cromer? I mean, a guy that had coordinator experience that comes in a position group. And listen, he's coming in as a defensive advisor, but he's obviously you go to practice and he is literally running defensive line drills. So they have him he's the guy that literally developed Trey Hendrickson that got him paid that huge deal. So I think the Bills, outside of going out and getting a Trey Hendrickson, they're hoping that Ryan Nielsen can maybe have a similar effect on some of their young players, Solomon included. I mean, AJ Epinesa, they've worked a ton together over the OTAs period. So it's going to be interesting to watch. AJ Sabalski in the house. Congratulations to our guy, former Shout podcast producer extraordinaire, now officially a member of the train that never stops, Trainwreck Sports. So looking forward to that, chopping it up with AJ. It's going to be it didn't feel right with AJ not in the space, getting all that schooling in. So now he's back in the house.
Love it. Felt a little bad for him when he was trying to give some teasers for the announcement, and he did the trains, and there was the whole wide receiver train in the offseason. So everyone's like, does this mean Gabe Davis is signing? He took a lot of flack on social media that first day for, trying to put a teaser out there. So very excited, though, that he's joined Trainwreck, and then we'll get some more Bills content from him.
All right, that is going to do it for our Tuesday episode. We got one every day this week for mandatory minicamp. Check back in tomorrow. I'll try to figure out some of the details and some of these injuries, and we'll have all of the practice updates for you as well. Become an insider, 716-528-6727. 2-week free trial, $3.99 a month after that. Hang out with me and Ryan on a personal level. You can text back and forth. It's great.
Can't wait. Love it. Training camp, it really ramps up. So we're getting to that window where you do want to sign up, get that 2-week free trial, and join us for when the pads come on and action really heats up.
You know that our relationship has entered the next level when you just know when to go, when I stop. Like you just knew in that moment, hey, I got to fill in here. I got to go.
Right. There was a brief, awkward silence. I'm like, I got to jump in.
I'm proud of you. See you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
See everybody tomorrow. Take care, everybody.